What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over 5 reasons why switching to a cinema camera completely changed the way I shoot, for good and for bad. Let's get into it. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory on how my career with these cameras has gone so far. I started on the Panasonic GH4 series, then moved up to the GH5 series. I was doing weddings and all that stuff, which these are perfect for. And then I started getting some corporate gigs and things that more required higher end stuff, like built-in XLRs, built-in ND filters. I found when I was on weddings and playing with the variable ND filter on the lens was just a pain in the butt all the time. And then you'd start getting these weird effects in the lens, and just having the ND filter to switch was just a dream come true. So that was the backstory. I just started getting some more work that needed a camera like this, and I pulled the trigger. Was it the right idea? Let's find out. So number 1 on my list is going to be the weight of these cameras. The weight is completely different. You have the mirrorless or DSLR, in this case the GH5, which is a smaller camera, and having this weight is nice. It's nice because it has in-body stabilization on this camera, so having the lighter weight camera is not such a bad thing because you don't get that micro jitter so much because of the stabilization. But on any other camera, you do get a lot of micro jitters. So the weight can be a little bit of an issue for handheld shooting with these, but with these for handheld shooting, the weight is amazing. It stays so planted in your hand, so just concrete. It just looks a lot better. I like the look of the footage a lot more on these cameras than these cameras when shooting handheld. And it's just probably because of the weight and the way it shakes around and stuff, but that's just me. But it can also be a con for the big cameras and a pro for these cameras, because these cameras fit on almost any gimbal, slider, anything. You just balance them up and they're good to go, and they're easy to balance. These, on the other hand, if you're upgrading to a cinema camera, you're probably gonna be upgrading your gimbal and a lot of other things, probably your tripod as well, because you're not gonna wanna put a $15,000, $20,000 camera on something that's a tiny little tripod, right? So you're gonna be upgrading your gear. And not to mention, I was lucky that I had the Ronin M, and that's what I use for these just because of the weight. I like that planted feeling and not having that jitter, so I use a heavier gear. But this thing barely fits on the Ronin M with the counterweight type battery, the big battery. You need this battery for it to even fit on the Ronin M, and it will only fit with the 16-35 lens on it. So yeah, that can be an issue. It does fit on the Ronin S with the 16-35, and I've done it with the 24-70, but you have to use a smaller battery, so it's weird and it doesn't really balance all that well. But the Ronin, or the DJI Ronin RS2, will be able to house this camera perfectly. So I'm getting that, and that's that. But yeah, be ready to upgrade your gear because they are heavier, and yeah. One more thing I found between the weights and the size and ergonomics almost of them is this is so much easier to get tight in shots. You can rotate it however you want to rotate it, and try doing that rotating shot on this. It's just different. They're totally different, and it has changed the way I shoot because I used to do that sporty, twisty shooting, and I find myself now reverting to more of a dock style shooting, more raw handheld. And yeah, it's just the way it is. Different cameras, different things. I still use both. But yeah, that's the weight. Let's move to number 2. Number 2 on the list is going to be audio recording. On these little cameras here, you only have a microphone jack with a hot shoe mount, which you can put a shotgun mic on, which is awesome for vlogging and all that stuff and getting basic videos. But if your subject's far away and you want to get audio to them, you're either gonna have to run a lav microphone or run external recorder and get that thing closer to them, because yeah, you can't pick up very clean audio from very far away. On the other hand, these, and that's why I switched to this, because I was getting corporate work, which involves setting up interviews and doing all those extra little steps with these cameras, which made it a real pain in the butt on the computer to sync all the audio and stuff. So I figured, let's move up, let's get better audio recording. So these have built-in XLR ports. There's 2 inputs on these. It can record 4 channels. So you can record at different levels on different channels. So if you clip on one, you can take from another. So you always have safety recordings. And yeah, it's awesome. You can also attach a lav mic system on there right into the XLR ports, run it all. You have on the back, you have all your audio settings, which you can adjust. So it's super handy, super convenient, and the audio is baked right into the video, so that is very handy. So that's what I love about that. Not saying you can't put a lav mic system on there, but you're buying more parts for a camera. You're buying probably a cage to hook it onto, and the list goes on. So that being said, audio recording with this is one more step in the editing bay that I don't have to do, no more syncing, and I love it. Let's move to number 3 on the list, which is going to be just thinking more. I find myself thinking a lot more now that I've switched to a cinema camera compared to this. I used to just throw this on a gimbal, run around the place, get all the different shots. This now I'm shooting on CFast cards in a raw format. So that is super high res files that take up a lot of space. So you're pretty much paying close to $550 to shoot 30 minutes on this. That's how much the memory cards cost, and then to back the footage up. So you're constantly thinking about what you're shooting. You're still getting the shots, but you don't want to waste your memory and just shoot everything. And then at the same time, you're not on a gimbal just getting all those dynamic moving shots. So you really got to think about what's in your frame and how you're framing things up, and I think that's been very beneficial to me. I really like that style of shooting more. I found simple handheld is amazing. I love it. So that is one of the things I just find myself thinking about everything more. That moves us on to number 4, and that's gonna be the value that a cinema camera can bring to your company or production. People, when you pull up on set, just take you a lot more serious when you have a camera like this versus a camera like this. It's just the way it is. A lot of things these days are about the image, and I'm not saying gear is everything at all, but when people are paying you thousands of dollars to do your job, I think it is quite necessary to invest in yourself and get yourself the best equipment you can that suits your needs to do the job and get it done. And not only that, you're gonna be adding value in the form of quality, because you can now shoot raw, which is amazing, and the sky's the limit. You could take your raw footage and put it on stock footage sites and sell it and all that. So invest in yourself. It's a huge thing that I do all the time. I actually don't find myself investing in myself enough, even though I have a lot of it. But it's just the way it is. I need to get more lights. I'm gonna focus more on lighting this year. That's huge for me, and more on just the quality of everything. And number 5 on the list is going to be my favorite thing, is the built-in ND filters on a cinema camera. That is one thing that I absolutely hated about having these cameras, is the variable ND filters. You obviously don't have to run variable NDs, but I did. They were just more convenient when you're on a wedding set. But when you crank those around too much and they start leaking weird colors into your image, it just sucks. And having the convenience to just flick the button, boom, 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 stop by stop, and change how much light comes into your lens or into your sensor is just amazing. So that is my top pro about these cinema cameras, is the built-in ND filters. Okay, well that's it for this video. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment if you have any questions, and please imagine, create, and inspire. See you next week.